Hey you beautiful people, how's it going, and welcome to a new video. So I've been getting a lot of requests to talk about the build that I'm playing on my stream quite a bit, which is the strength stacking occultist battle mage. So yeah, this is the same build from 3.16. The current clips that you are seeing are when I just converted my gear, so it's actually gotten quite a bit stronger since then in terms of boss DPS. Clear is still pretty much the same because everything just dies in one hit. So yeah, I'm going to get into it. It's not really going to be a build guide, just more so talking about my gear, my current tree compared to 3.16. So I'll see you in a sec. Okay guys, so first I'm just going to quickly talk about my gear. Any changes from 3.16, there are two of them just for Giga AoE with this build. So I'll talk about the standard gear first just so you can have a look at it, and then I'll just get into the two changes that I've made so far for 3.17. So we have strength stacker rings, which are pretty much, you know, best in slot rings that you can get, starting at the moment at around 7x each. You don't necessarily need these. If you are playing the build, you can just use Iolite rings because it's increased chaos damage, and those will get you through if you just throw some deafening essence of strength on them. So yeah, those are the best rings that we've got. The belt, however, increased percent strength, which is the max roll on that, as well as increased percent maximum life. Now I got this belt very cheap early on in the league on like day 1 or 2 for 2 exalts, but this belt is pretty much best in slot for a strength stacker, especially the occultist version. So again, just slammed it with deafening essence of rage until I got someone that I was happy with, which in this case just happens to be tier 1 life because that's all we really need, because my resistances are fine with just the rest of these stats. After that, we're using the replica Alberon's Warpath, which is the best in slot boots that you cannot replace because it gives the adds 1 to 80 chaos damage to attacks per 80 strength. And yeah, you just want to get those with the 18% increased strength rollers again. It does cap your move speed at 20% as well, so you might walk around a little bit slow. However, the fix to that is pretty much, I will explain it when I get to the mace. So yeah, after that I'm using an Astromentus right now, which is the budget version, allocated Whispers of Doom on it, and this is only because I have Curse on Hit Gloves right now, which I'll get into in a moment as well. Usually I would do Heart of Darkness, but since I'm using a triple curse setup right now, Whispers of Doom is great, meaning I can apply 3 curses because I am an occultist. So Red Blade Banner, best in slot, only shield that you can use since we're using Battle Mage's Cry, of course. This gives us maximum power all the time, so we can always use our Battle Mage's Cry, so we always have the buff to do the damage. And the helmet that I'm using is the elevated accuracy equal to your strength helmet, gain accuracy equal to your strength, and 1% increased crit strike chance per 10 strength, which is the elevated modifier. And then we're using the hunt nearby enemies have -2 chaos res. I'm not using an elevated one because it doesn't make a huge difference, and so it'll just save you money if you just roll with one of those. But yeah, it's pretty standard stuff. No changes here from 3.16. Using the Battle Mage's Cry buff effect, of course, as per usual. And then, of course, the Iron Fortress with Strength Enchant on it, which is obviously best in slot as well for Strength Stackers because it gives you the Strength damage bonus bonus, instead grants 3% increased melee. Fears damage per strength with when you know match it with Iron Will as well. It makes it apply 3% to spell damage. So yeah. Going on to the last two items of the build, which are actually changed now, just to talk about them very, very quickly. I'm using a Boom Mace rather than Replica Frost Breath, and the reason for the Boom Mace is because it is a demon when it comes to clearing, because you have trigger level 20 Fiery Impact on melee hit with this weapon. And then if you get the Elder Influence on it, which is you just slam it with a Crusader Exalted Orb and then use Harvest to randomize the influence, you can get 3% increased AoE per 50 strength. So this basically makes your Cyclone massive, since we have insane amounts of strength. I'm at 2,800 right now. So my Cyclone looks like this, and you might think that doesn't look too big. That's because I'm using Concentrated Effect for even more DPS. So when I take out Conk Effect and I have a spare slot here, I could put increased AoE if I really wanted to. We have an absolutely giant Cyclone. So yeah, this is a Giga Cyclone. However, that isn't the only benefit of this mace. This mace also applies to your curse auras if you're using Blasphemy. So I'm running Punishment at the moment over here, which makes cursed enemies take 8% increased damage whilst on low life. And then it also does 10% of overkill damage from killing blows on cursed enemies is reflected to other enemies as fizz damage. So basically, since this is Giga AoE on the curse, this pairs really well with Profane Bloom, which gives you your hexes can affect hexproof enemies. Cursed enemies you or your minions kill have a 40% chance to explode. So basically, more enemies are going to be affected by the curse because of the Giga AoE from the Boom Mace, meaning that, as you probably saw in the Maze of the Minotaur, if you leap slam onto a pack, everything around it will pretty much die. It's a really cool chain explosion effect, and it's very, very satisfying to play. Lastly, we have Malagaro's Virtuosity Deerskin Gloves, which are a change from the Meganord's Vise. So I've got these with Cursed Enemies with Despair on hit as well. These give you a crit multi, a base crit multi of 300%. Since we're strength stacking, it's very hard to get your crit multi up. If you're using these gloves, you have a base crit of 300, and then you can just focus on getting your crit strike chance up, which is also quite difficult to do on a strength stacker, because again, you're taking so many nodes that give you, you know, just pure strength. So it's a wacky looking tree. So because of that, we can fit increased crit strikes into the build. So we have a pretty decent crit chance, even with just, I only have a Diamond Flask right now. Assassin's Mark obviously providing power charges as well, so you have a pretty decent crit chance. If I had a Bottle of Faith, it would be a ton of DPS more, but I don't have one yet just because I haven't bought one. I will get one in the future, probably after this video. And then yeah, that's pretty much it for my gear. The Malagaros are a huge DPS boost unless you're taking some wacky crit nodes on the tree, in which case Meganords will be okay for you, but you'll lose quite a bit of strength in the long run as well. And yeah, the Boom Mace, if you need a crafting guide for this, feel free to let me know, or you can just pop by my stream and I can craft one for you if you want to try the build out. It's not very hard at all to craft this, actually. So yeah, that's just about it. Flask wise, it's just, you know, standard stuff, just standard normal flask, anything that you prefer. I'm using a Diamond Flask for DPS, which has no quality on it, which I'm sure I'll get crucified for. As well as this Quicksilver Life Flask, and then yeah, just these two are just whatever. But yeah, that's it for the gear, guys. I'll jump into the skill tree changes now. I don't think there's many from 3.16, but yeah, POB will also be in the description if you want to have a look. Okay guys, so getting into the skill tree for my 3.17 version. So it's pretty much the same, not much changed. I have crangled this a little bit more down here just to get a bit more strength and life on these split personalities. As you can see, we're at 96 now, which is huge. So we're almost at 7k life. We're literally one off 7k life. Take that out and we lose 400, well actually over 400 health. 2838 strength right now, and then we're down to 2653. So yeah, as you can tell, this is combined, this is almost 400 strength and 800 life, so this is absolutely huge. Because of this tech, guys, as well, going like this, we can suck it in a Might of the Meek over here with Corrupted Blood cannot be inflicted on you. This gives you over 70 strength, and it is very, very cheap. Corrupted Blood on this jewel is very, very cheap as well, at about 15-20c, something like that. So this is a nice little tech if you are trying to save money on your jewels. Just bear that in mind. And when it comes to the cluster, I'm currently, I believe I had a Megalomaniac in 3.16. So I've dropped it in this one for a large cluster with Overlord on it, Martial Prowess, and I've got Aggressive Defense. This isn't technically the best one you can have. The best one would be Martial Prowess, Overlord, and Drive the Destruction, I believe it's called. So Drive the Destruction would be 0.8% of attack damage Leech's life, meaning you wouldn't need Divergent Void Manipulation in order to get Leech, so you'd be able to drop that for Awakened Void Manipulation, which would be a lot better for your damage as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the changes over here. Also guys, if you need life leech and you don't have the gem and you don't have the cluster, you can get it on your lethal pride over here. I've got it right now at 0.1%. Sorry, 0.4% of attack damage leached as live. So this is very, very convenient if you're on a budget, because this cluster over here will be a lot cheaper than one with leech on it. So just bear that in mind. Aside from that guys, tree is pretty much exactly the same, so I'm not going to delve too much into it. I will put a link to the original build guide in the description as well, just so you can compare if you need to. But yeah, that's just about it guys. I'll just talk about my gems now. Again, not really many changes for the gems either. I don't actually know if I have any changes at all, as a matter of fact, but yeah, I'll get into it just to be sure. Okay guys, so getting into our gem setup, honestly not much has changed except the chest, but I'll go over them all anyway. So yeah, totems wise, we're still using Val Ancestral War Chief with Ancestral Protector, multiple totems with Withering Touch to inflict withering very, very quickly on enemy bosses, which will just get the stacks up to 15 pretty much instantly, and you'll just annihilate them. Moving on from that, we have Battle Mage's Cry, naturally linked with Life Tap and Anomalous Urgent Orders for the increased buff effect. And then Assassin's Mark as well, which we can then exert with our Leap Slam every time we proc it. A little bit of a buff to Battle Mage's Cry in this meta. Now that Assassin's Mark is now permanently on bosses once you apply it, it makes it a lot less dangerous in fights like the Feared, because you'll only have to Leap Slam on them initially to apply it. Yeah, that's pretty good. So moving on, we've got Live Tap, Leap Slam with faster attacks, just so we can get around a little bit quicker. Awaken Blasphemy support up here with Punishment as our aura, as our third aura, since we're running Whispers of Doom. If you don't have the Curse on Hit gloves, then you can just run Despair in here instead. You won't have as much Exploders with the Curse on Hit gloves, because Punishment really does make a big difference, but it'll still be pretty good. It'll still be good enough. And then if you don't have the triple Curse set up, you don't need Whispers of Doom either. You can then get Heart of Darkness for more Chaos damage and Chaos damage pens resistance. So yeah, that's pretty standard stuff right there. Moving on to the Beam Mace, I've just got Blood Rage for a bit more attack speed and Frenzy Charge generation in maps. And then Molten Shell and a cast when damage taken setup. So we are Giga tanky. And lastly, our setup in our chest, which will vary whether or not you're using a Beam Mace or the Replica Frost Breath. So Replica Frost Breath makes you chill, so you'll drop Conk Effect for Hypothermia if you're using the Replica Frost Breath. If not, this is the setup that I'm going with the Beam Mace. Then we've got Cyclone with increased crit strike supports, because we have Melagaros for the flat 300% multi. Then Shockwave, because it is about 5 million extra DPS. Conk Effect, because it's very, very strong with this, since you don't really get the drawback of the small AoE, because either way, your curse is going to kill everything that you don't touch, basically. And then we have Void Manipulation, 2120. Awaken Void Manipulation, obviously better, and if you have absolutely no leech on your jewel or your tree, then go with Diversion. But if not, then Void Manipulation standard one will just be fine. And lastly, we have Pulverize for increased AoE, increased area damage, more melee area damage, and 15% less attack speed. So yeah, big DPS. My DPS right now is somewhere around 18 million overall when you combine everything together, you know, with the Fiery Impact, the Shockwave, and the Cyclone. So yeah, it's a pretty huge DPS build for what it is, and I can get this easily to over 30 million if I work on my amulet and just change a few jewels around. If I get an Emperor's Mastery, for instance, it won't be too hard at all. So yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to upgrade this build, because I can already do all content with it. As you've probably seen if you've dropped by the stream, it's an absolute demon. Pantheons wise, I'm using at the moment the Soul of Aracali, which I haven't captured because I was using Brian King for my last build before I swapped. And then on these bottom ones, I just swapped them around. So I'm using Abarath just for my last map was like Burning Ground on it. So I was using that. But if I'm like against bosses that inflict poison, I'll switch to Shikari. And then yeah, just whatever you feel like really on that one. But yeah, that's just about it for me, guys. I hope this helps. If you have any questions about the build, if you want me to help you craft the Boom Mace, craft the helmet, drop by my stream. I will do it on stream for you as long as you provide the things for me. And that's just about it, guys. Take care. Also, big shout out to my King Patreon supporters, Sen, Nexi, Malta K, and Desire. Absolute legends. I'll catch you guys next time. Take care. Bye.